This conference will now be recorded.
राइट सो गाइस देखो अभी तक क्या कर रहे थे हम लोग वी लर्नड अ लॉट ठीक है नाउ लाइक इफ यू डू सम रिट्रोस्पेक्शन इन फॉर पास्ट 3-4 months you must have realized that हम लोग बहुत आगे आ चुके हैं from where we started like right from understanding कि what is a server एक छोटा सा हमने देखा था and now we are actually implementing our own servers over AWS EC2 instance ठीक है हमने सबसे पहले देखा था कि like वो what is PHP और PHP को हम कैसे होस्ट कर रहे थे 000 वेब उस पे now we have come a very far way मतलब बहुत आगे आ गए हैं उससे लाइक वी हैव डिप्लॉयड आवर ओन सर्वर्स इन प्रोडक्शन ऑलमोस्ट लाइक प्रोडक्शन जैसा ही था वो ठीक है कि बट यस थोड़ा सा रिफाइनमेंट एंड ट्रस्ट मी इट वुड बी लाइक टोटली 100% प्रोडक्शन रेडी तो बहुत सारी चीजें हम नई नई सीख चुके हैं नाउ नेक्स्ट व्हाट नेक्स्ट इज कि वी शुड डेवलप दैट कॉन्फिडेंस एज वेल कि जैसे लेट्स से we have learned a lot but we are not able to present it or we are not able to use it तो उसका कोई फायदा नहीं है नॉट टू यूज दैट थिंग जो हमने अब सीखा है उसको एक्चुअल में अप्लाई करना उसको एक्चुअल में इम्प्लीमेंट करना व्हाट इट रिक्वायर्स इज confidence and trust me it takes a lot of confidence and some of you know what is the actual power of confidence right कि how to be spontaneous how to be ready कि how to deal with challenges how to get over that shaking nervousness वो सारी चीजें उन सबको like conquer करना it's very important and this platform जैसा मैंने एकदम स्टार्टिंग में बोला था कोर्स स्टार्ट करने से पहले कि this will be all about like your personal development as well right कि not just in terms of what you're learning not just in terms of what you are gaining from this platform but it also in terms of gaining that boosting your confidence तो वो आज से हम उस चीज पे ज्यादा फोकस करेंगे सो व्हाट वी विल डू इज आज से फॉर्मेट क्या रहेगा कि अभी तक जो हम लाइव क्लासेस करते आए हैं दे वर गुड इनफ नाउ अब से लाइव क्लासेस में यू विल स्टार्ट डेमोन्स्ट्रेटिंग व्हाट यू हैव लर्नड यू कैन पिंग मी एनी टाइम एंड टेल कि मुझे कल ये डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करना सो इट्स योर प्लेटफॉर्म टोटली ठीक है तो इसमें क्या होगा कि यू विल एक्चुअली गेट इनटू माय शूज एंड सी कि लाइक हाउ इज इट लाइक टू बी देयर तो मैं तुम्हें एक्चुअल में समझ में आएगा कि लाइक प्रेजेंट जब हम करते हैं चार लोगों से जब बाहर चल के मिलकर बात करते हैं तो हाउ इज इट लाइक टू प्रेजेंट ठीक है अभी सब वर्चुअल है बाद में लाइक यू विल बी गोइंग इनटू सम ग्रेट कंपनीज यू विल हैव अ वेरी गुड करियर सो वहां पे यू विल बी प्रेजेंटिंग इन फिजिकली इन टर्म्स ऑफ आई कॉन्टैक्ट्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ हैंड जेस्चर्स ये सारी चीजें तुम्हें अपने नॉलेज के ऊपर कॉन्कर करनी होंगी राइट आई हैव सीन पीपल शेकिंग when they are presenting themselves तो वो सारी चीजें भी तुम लोगों को कॉन्कर करनी है टू बी अ ग्रेट लीडर हमने स्टार्टिंग में क्या कहा था कि आवर मोटो इज इंस्पायरिंग यंग माइंड्स टू डू ग्रेट थिंग्स करेक्ट now when you want to do great things you also need to have a great amount of confidence and the appropriate amount of confidence so आज से उस पर we will start focusing all you will do is कि जितने भी मैं तुम्हें ग्रुप पे लेक्चर्स दूंगा वो सारे के सारे रिकॉर्डेड फॉर्मेट में होंगे जैसे लास्ट क्लास में थे एंड फ्रॉम नाउ ऑन यू विल स्टार्ट प्रेजेंटिंग जो भी तुमने पिछली क्लास में सीखा या उससे पहले सीखा तो एवरी टाइम इन द फोर्थ कमिंग क्लासेस तुम में से कोई एक आएगा आगे एंड आई लेट यू नो लाइक बिफोर द क्लास आज तुम्हारी बारी है एंड यू विल प्रेजेंट इन दैट डेज क्लास कूल अब इसका फायदा क्या है नाउ द ग्रेट एडवांटेज विद व्हाट यू विल हैव कि I'll also upload these lectures, whatever you are taking or whatever you are demonstrating over YouTube, and you can upload them, let's say in your resume, you can add them in your resume or claim over LinkedIn profile that yes, you actually presented. तो इससे क्या तुम्हें एक तो प्रैक्टिकल इम्प्लीमेंटेशन तुम्हें समझ में आ गया तुम्हारी डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन स्किल्स अच्छी हो गई एंड यू ऑल्सो गॉट द थर्ड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट इज रिकॉग्निशन तो यू हैव ऑल द थ्री इन योर हैंड ठीक है so this will help you in gaining some confidence this will help you in gaining some recognition when you sit for interviews when you sit for companies and otherwise as well like जब तुम किसी और से interact कर रहे हो तो this will give you immense amount of confidence because you have already done this before ठीक है so having a conversation and having a technical conversation it's a quite different thing तो आज की क्लास में हम वैसे ही करने वाले हैं एंड वी हैव आर्यन विद अस हु इज गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट गिट ठीक है तो आर्यन प्लीज आई वांट यू टू लाइक इंट्रोड्यूस योरसेल्फ आई विल मेक यू द प्रेजेंटर एज वेल एंड यू कैन स्टार्ट शेयरिंग योर स्क्रीन एज वेल राइट आर्यन like we are not able to hear you but yeah please maybe like you can try
Hello.
and sure yeah hi
Hello. Hi everyone, I am Aryan. Pushant, sir, I'm not able to switch on my camera. Is it like you will have to allow me for that, or?
Yeah, I can allow you to switch on your camera, but I won't suggest to like switch on your camera because it takes some internet bandwidth, and people who are viewing your camera, like viewing your screen,
Okay,
or
okay.
maybe like, you get that point, right? They might be start
Yes,
consuming
yes,
the
sure,
bandwidth
sure,
as
sure,
well.
sure. Okay, okay.
You can
Just a
still
minute.
go. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Mm. Okay, so hello everyone. I am Aryan Garg. I am just like one of you all. I've also gained a lot from Pushansar's batch, and I've been fortunate enough that Pushansar has given me the opportunity to introduce you people with Git as a revision for all of you. So this is how I look. I am Aryan Garg. I am I'm working right now in a software edtech domain company. It's a startup which is named as Fashive. It's a Singapore-based company, and I'm these days working there as a software engineer. And I've recently graduated from Amity University. I've had my convocation on 29th of December. So yeah, and I'm also a valedictorian for my department. That is a gold medalist. So yeah, so let's start our lecture for today. And okay, so as the first topic today, which we will discuss, is what is Git. So Git is like its formal definition is it is a version control system. So when we talk about a version control system, let's take an example of developing a very basic project, that is our HTML page. Let's say there are three people, तीन लोग एक project पे काम कर रहे हैं, and they're developing a website. So they try to develop, and we have given three different web pages to each and every person. Let's say I have index.html, that is the front page. Pushan sir has about us page, and let's say some other guy has. Okay, we do have. Uh, okay, okay, yeah. I was looking at the chat section. Yeah, so or let's say the third person is having contact us page. So now, if we are maintaining a project on our local domains, like local machines, PCs, so we have the control of our pages that are given to us. जैसे मेरे पास अगर मेरे पास index.html that is front end page है मेरा home page design करने के लिए, तो if I have to show it to Pushan sir or the third person who is working with me, or if they have to implement some changes into it, then we should have a centralized system जिससे हम तीनों एक दूसरे का कोड रेफर कर सके, उसमें चेंजेस कर सके, और हम उसमें रेफरेंसेस या कमिट्स ऐड कर सकें, या हम सजेशंस दे सकें कि इसको हम और अच्छे तरीके से लिख सकते हैं, एंड इसको हम और अच्छे तरीके से रिफैक्टर कर सकते हैं. So for this, we have a tool called Git. Now, Git, as the name suggests, is version control. Version control is we are actually creating versions. Versions in the sense हम उसको date के reference में कुछ messages के साथ हम उसको उनके versions create करते रहते हैं. Basically, blocks create करते हैं. जिससे क्या है कि and we can always revert back to these versions. Let's say, for example, we have a version 1. We upload it onto this GitHub GitHub server. It is basically a repository, a place जहां हम store कर रहे हैं अपने source code को. तो हमने एक level store किया, then we made some changes, and then हमने एक next version या let's say एक next level develop कर लिया. If I develop the second version and push answer says to me कि ये बहुत stable नहीं है, let's not make it live. हमें इसको अपने production पे नहीं लाना है अभी. So then comes the concept of branching. Okay, so I'm introducing everything on the very beginning. So let's go with what is Git. So Git is a version control system. By version, what I mean is we can develop and store our different codes, different versions. If we have to add a new feature, or if we have to modify our any of our feature, or in the sense like we developed our Django app. Django की न्यूज ऐप हमने डेवलप करी थी, So once we have released a alpha version of it, if we want to create a beta version of it, then that is called the next version of my app. So I will upload the second version of my app onto GitHub. So for demonstrating, so there are some basic terms which comes with GitHub. So let's start with them. First is a repository. So repository is something, repository is the main thing. I mean, it's the main storage area. Let's say it's a directory or a folder, or it's a main folder in which you will have everything, all your source code, all your commits, everything. I mean, this repository will contain all your data and your commits. You can even look back onto commits. You can even look back. For now, commits are basically changes that we make. All the changes that we are saving, I'll refer to them as commit for now. Then comes, after repository comes the main thing, that is commit. So what is commit? Commit is, let's say you have, I'll use a diagram. Yeah. So for now, let's consider this as a repository. And these are different versions. By versions, what I mean is this is one change which I made onto my code. Let's say 1. This is then this is 2. Let's say this is the, let's give it a date, or let's say this is at day A. I made a change and I saved it onto my repository. This is day B. I made some change and saved it to my repository. So now what commit does? Commit basically is saving your changes with date as a timestamp and adding some information or message simultaneously to it, so that others can know what changes are you making. What changes are there? What were the changes that were implemented? Or even if you want to pass it for your own information, to remember that what this piece of code does for you. ये क्या करता है आपके लिए code? So this is commit. You can ask some questions if you want to in middle. After that, after commit, so is repository and commit clear? Like what is a repository and what is a commit?
Yeah, sorry for interrupting, Aryan. Like मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ सब लोगों से, don't be like very formal. Ask any questions जैसे तुम मेरे से पूछते हो, मुझे रोक के जैसे पूछ सकते हो questions. ऐसे ही like samely, like in a similar fashion, you can ask questions to Aryan as well, right? Do not hesitate, and like even if like Aryan doesn't know any answers, so don't think कि like ये इसको पता होगा नहीं पता होगा, तो ऐसा कुछ में मत सोचना. Just be as like informal as you can. This is your platform right now. Cool. Sure. So sorry, Aryan, you can continue, please. Thanks.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So now whatever I've discussed, I will try to demonstrate in front of you what I meant. So Simon, I'll as if जैसे जैसे कोई नई चीज आती जाएगी, I'll keep on discussing you with all of you. So let's first of all create a new repository. How will you do that? Go to github.com. When it will ask you to log in, if you're a new user, you have to sign up. Sign up for it. It's very easy. Like we can also sign, if you want to avoid adding a new username or a password that you don't remember, you can even sign it with Google. So that's not a problem. Now let's give a name to a repository. Let's say demo class. There are two options of having the visibility. मतलब हम दो तरीके से अपनी repository रख सकते हैं. One is public and the other is private. In GitHub, you do get a opportunity of keeping a repository as private, but the only thing is you can only have 3 users to it. मतलब हम सिर्फ 3 users के लिए रख सकते हैं. If अगर हम उससे ज्यादा जाते हैं तो then we have to pay for it. And private उसके लिए होती है when you are working on some project or some freelancing project or for some company project which you don't want to show others. I mean, आप किसी को अपना कोड नहीं दिखाना चाहते तो you can use a private repository for now. So for now we are using a public because हमारा ऐसा कोई restraint नहीं है. Then we do get some extra files or extra options to add up as we initialize our repository. So one is README file. README file is used to give a very brief introduction of your project or any of your file or something. Let's say for example, if Kushan sir wants to see my GitHub repository, so मैंने उन्हें ये बोला कि आप मेरी डेमो क्लास की रिपोजिटरी पर जाओ and you can actually see entire source code there, or you can have a look कि मैंने क्या डेवलप किया है. So this is very helpful for all of us कि हमें किसी को अपना प्रोजेक्ट दिखाना है तो GitHub is a very good platform to show. And if we are also, and the best part over it is if we are able to deploy it on a server like Heroku, और बहुत सारी free hosting like चीजें हैं जिससे हम कर सकते हैं, अपने प्रोजेक्ट को लाइव सर्व कर सकते हैं, and we add a link to it, and after that अगर हमें अपना source code दिखाना हो या पीछे का लॉजिक दिखाना हो क्या है, तो we can always redirect people to our GitHub repository. So उसके लिए readme file is something which gives a very brief introduction कि project is what the project is all about. Or if you want to, you can even add a description कि ये file ये करता है or something like that. Basically description देना कि what our project is about. Then git ignore. Git ignore file is a file. Let's say for example you are developing a project and आपको उसे अपनी GitHub पे मतलब सेव करना है. तो उसमें क्या होता है, व्हेन यू क्रिएट अ प्रोजेक्ट, आप अपने किसी भी लेट्स से आप एडिटर पे वर्क कर रहे हो, लेट्स और आईडी पे वर्क कर रहे हो, लेट्स से इट्स पाइचार्म, कोई विजुअल स्टूडियो पे काम कर रहा है, कोई सबलाइन टेक्स्ट पे काम कर रहा है, दीज ऑल आर बेसिकली आईडीज जिस पे प्रोजेक्ट अपना हार्ड मतलब कोड लिखते हो. सो ये जब व्हेन यू कॉन्फ़िगर सम सेटिंग्स ऑन योर सिस्टम, जैसे हम कोई एनवायरनमेंट वेरिएबल क्रिएट कर रहे हैं या हम कुछ डिफॉल्ट कॉन्फ़िगरेशन फाइल्स होती हैं जो हमारी प्रोजेक्ट के साथ क्रिएटेड होती हैं, सो वो सारी फाइल्स by default project file में stored होती हैं. अब now if you entirely save that entire project file or folder onto your GitHub, तो अगर कोई for example let's say Pushan भैया and I are working on a project, and if we both have to share our files, so since I in the very beginning told you कि GitHub is a platform जहाँ पे हम कोड को स्टोर कर रहे हैं, and the intent is ताकि बाकी लोग भी उसमें contribute कर सकें. तो पुशान भैया if he wants to work on my project, so he will have to get that project to on his own local computer first. So there comes a concept of remote and local. GitHub repository is a remote server. By remote, what I mean is it is not located on your local PC. It is present somewhere else. You're storing it somewhere else. It is not taking वो आपके local machine की storage नहीं ले रहा है, and it is stored on a cloud, let's say. तो वो क्लाउड पे स्टोर्ड है, तो अगर हम अपना तो कोई भी मेरे क्लाउड पे जाके उसको एक्सेस कर सकता है इफ इट इज इन अ पब्लिक रिपोजिटरी. अगर वो प्राइवेट है तो वो सिर्फ मैं ही देख सकता हूँ, या मैं पुशान भैया को एक्सप्लिसिटली ऐड करूं एज ए यूजर अपने प्राइवेट गिटहब रिपोजिटरी में. सो गिट इग्नोर फाइल का बेसिकली काम ये है कि वो कुछ फाइल्स को इग्नोर कर देता है. बेसिकली जो फाइल्स हमारी गिट इग्नोर फाइल में होंगी वो किसी थर्ड पर्सन को नहीं दिखेंगी. दैट विल ओनली बी फॉर अस. So basically all the configuration files or any temporary file which you don't want others to see, you put or add these files into a .gitignore file. Choosing a license is all about when you want to license your code. So let's say for example you want to copyright some of your code, and copyright करने के बाद you don't want others to make any changes to it, or even if they have to make some changes they will have to ask you first, आपकी permission लेनी पड़ेगी. So that is what license is all about. So let's create a repository first with two files. One is a readme file and one is gitignore. So now for gitignore, yeah, sure.
जैसे हम लोग गिट इग्नोर में अगर किसी फाइल का नाम डाल दिए तो क्या मीन्स मैं जब अपना ये कमिट करूंगा तो जब अपलोड करेंगे तो वो फाइल मेरे पीसी से गिटहब वाला रिपोजिटरी में जाएगा ही नहीं, या फिर जाएगा लेकिन किसी को दिखेगा नहीं?
वो आपकी गिटहब रिपोजिटरी पे जाएगा ही नहीं. पुशान भी, am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Like git ignore will simply ignore the file from being committed and pushed to your repository. So it would stay in your local system only. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
So while we, yeah. Sorry, कुछ और पूछना था? Okay. No. Okay. So let's okay. Thank you. Let's continue. git ignore file को select करने के लिए we will have to choose a template. So now what is a template? A template is basically a language. So if you are developing a project in Python, you will select Python for this as Python as the template for this git ignore file. And let's create a repository. So now there are two files. One is git.ignore and the other is readme file. Okay, so now if we see, it is showing us that one initial commit is done. By commit it is the first initialization commit. So now it shows me the date of. Is anyone saying something?
Hello, sorry Aryan for interrupting.
Yeah.
Can you tell me that what is the use of that adding the license while creating the
So
repository?
okay. So by adding a license, what I meant was, let's say you are developing a project and you're developing a new project and you don't want others to. So basically, you're not open sourcing that project to anyone. You are basically adding it onto the GitHub repository. And जैसे क्या होता है, when for example, I have added a project on GitHub, and since it's a public repository, so people have the control. People can see those code. They can even make some. They can even make some comments, or they can add some suggestions. I'll show you how to do that. I mean, we can go and have a look on someone's project and then code, and then we can write some suggestions or any comment, or we can add some comments. If you don't want people to use the entire code on, let's say you have developed a very basic application of weather prediction forecasting. You have developed a Python tkinter project and आपने एक बहुत basic सा application बनाया है. Now on GitHub repository, if you don't add a license, so मैं as a student, I can simply copy paste your entire code and use it in my own project if I have to develop. Let's say like we do it on Stack Overflow. हम अपनी कोई query Stack Overflow पे डालते हैं and we just directly cut copy paste that. जैसे अभी भी हमें बहुत problems आई थी Flutter establish करने में, या फिर जब हम server Django का कर रहे थे तो हमने बहुत easily अपनी कोई भी issue डाला and हमने Stack Overflow से cut copy paste कर लिया सीधा. In the same way when we come on GitHub, क्योंकि GitHub पे सबने अपने प्रोजेक्ट, मतलब जिसने भी अपने प्रोजेक्ट्स डाले हुए हैं वो इस इंटेंट से ही है, या तो वो स्टोर रहे या फिर they don't have an issue of you copying that entire code and pasting it somewhere else, or using that entire code for implement and showing it to others as yours. That is the point where license comes. So when you introduce a license, तो बाकी लोग आपका code cut copy paste नहीं कर सकते. They will have to ask you first, or you will have to grant that permission to them, or maybe you don't even grant the permission. आप नहीं दे रहे हो किसी को. It's just that people can just see it, but they cannot cut copy paste it. Even if they do without your consent, then you can actually sue them. आप उन पे केस कर सकते हो कि मैंने इस सोर्स कोड के लिए लाइसेंस मतलब लिया हुआ है या मैंने इंट्रोड्यूस किया है, so how can someone use it without my consent?
Okay.
Is it clear now?
Yeah. Thank you, Aryan.
Welcome. So yeah, let's get back to the repository. So this is the first initial commit that has been made. So now what all? Okay, so after that, okay, so let's first create. So this is we have developed a remote repository now on GitHub. So we have to even create a local repository. By local repository, what I mean is local repository is something that will be stored on your local computer. So when you will be working on a project on your computer, you will make all the changes in a specific folder, right? And that all changes will be stored in your local computer in that local folder. But when you will save that entire thing into your GitHub, then you will be making those changes in this demo class repository, and all the files will be shown as, जैसे ये git ignore आ रही है, readme आ रही है, तो वो entire पूरे का पूरा folder जैसे ही उसका structure है, वो पूरा का पूरा structure यहाँ copy हो जाएगा. by structure I'm not meaning कि मतलब मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि exactly same, but all the files and folders exactly same यहाँ copy हो जाएंगे, not in the same order, just that. सिर्फ order अलग हो सकता है maybe, but exactly सारी की सारी files, सारे folders, everything except all those files which are there in git ignore. So let's do that first. Let's first come on to okay, so cmd. Yeah, I'm since I'm using Windows, so I'll be using cmd as as my terminal, or as my terminal. Before starting with that, first you will have to install GitHub. So GitHub now, there are two options, like people using Linux or Ubuntu, they can install it by Googling it, or simply you can go to github.com and it will give you an option. Okay, wait. So you can install GitHub from here. Like you can choose whichever.
Just a small correction, Aryan. That we are not installing GitHub, we are installing the Git CLI. So GitHub.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're not. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, sure. Please explain the difference between Git and GitHub. Yeah.
Yeah. So GitHub is a place where you are storing your files and your projects. Git is a language that you are using. Basically, Git is a collection of commands, or basically it's a collection of commands that you run, and based on that you are actually connecting your local repository and your global repository. Even it's basically an open source software that is maintaining all these commits. Yes, जितने भी आप save कर रहे हो changes, इनको हम commits कहते हैं. Commit और save में एक difference ये होता है. Commit के साथ we have some certain information, or we have some information attached to it. Let's say उसका date, किस दिन वो हुआ है, commit किसने किया है. Like for example, 5 people are working, तो किसने create किया, किसने वो पर्टिकुलर कमिट किया है, उसकी इंफॉर्मेशन, किस डेट पर वो कमिट हुआ है, दैट इंफॉर्मेशन. एंड यू कैन ऑल्सो ट्रैक कमिट्स बाय देयर आईडीज. उसका एक यूनिक आईडी होता है हर कमिट का. So all that is done using Git. So Git is a language. GitHub is a complete, you can say it's a collection of different repositories which you create. So GitHub is a storage hub, whereas Git is a language that you're using to connect or to perform all the functionalities that can be performed on GitHub. वो locally और remote आप दोनों Git के through करते हो. All the connections, everything is done through Git. You have different commands on Git. So अभी हम यहाँ पे Git install कर रहे हैं अपने local PC पे. Just to have the functionality of Git, हमने जितनी भी जो commands run करनी है उसके लिए we require Git. So you can install it from this page, depending on your operating system. Am I right, Pushan sir? For now?
Yeah, a little more correction that Git is not a programming language. So it's basically a tool, or maybe you can say a version control system. So it's more of a software. So it has a collection of commands, but yes, it is not like a programming language like we do, but it is written in some programming language, right? So it's more kind of a software. It's like I want to emphasize over this again, that it's not a programming language. It's more of a software. Cool then. Yeah, sure. Please continue.
Okay. Yeah. So once you've installed it, you can access it through your local terminal. Fine. So now for now I'm creating one directory which will have all my data, all the local project files which I'll be creating, or all the files that I will be pushing it to my adding it to my GitHub repository. So let's say test. I've named it as test. So if you see on my desktop, just a minute, I'm not on my desktop, just sorry. Yeah, so it has created one folder as test. Now I will run one command, git init. First I'll go into this test folder. I'll run one command which says git init. So what git init does? Git init is actually initializing some basic Git some basic Git commands or some basic Git configuration to make it as a local GitHub repository. So now, since I've run this, after running this Git init, I can see this .git folder. It will have different files which are making it a local GitHub repository now. So all the changes, all the Git operations that I'll be performing, it will be done because of this Git .git folder. So this is making the, so that's why this directory is different from my other folders. I cannot make I cannot run, even if I run the GitHub Git commands, they will not be of any value on other folders until or unless I've initialized it as a Git repository. So now I'll be creating one file. Let's say, just a minute. Just a minute. Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. So now I'll come to my test folder. Since so what I'll do is I'll create one new, guys, sorry, I've been changing it to another terminal. I'm using Ubuntu on my system now. So just to be sure of that. So since I've created one file, I can see that, oh no, I'll create one file which says new file. Yeah, so touch is used to create a new file. So there is one new file in it. Now I want to, so there is one concept of staging. There is one term which says staging area. Yeah, so what is staging area? Before before doing any changes to any of the files in your local GitHub repository, there's a staging area. So staging area is a place where you bring all your files, or you indicate Git that these files are there, on which I will, whatever I write or whatever commands I'm running, it has to have an effect on these files. वो सिर्फ उन्हीं फाइल्स पे वो इफेक्ट क्रिएट करे. जैसे अगर मेरे को कमिट करना है, या मुझे जो भी गिटहब के ऑपरेशंस हैं, मुझे एक लेट्स से 5 फाइल्स हैं, उनमें से सिर्फ 2 फाइल्स पे मुझे वो चेंजेस लाने हैं, तो मैं उन सिर्फ 2 फाइल्स को अपने स्टेजिंग एरिया पे लेके आऊंगा. Now how will I do that? I will write git add for that, and the name of file, whatever file I want to bring. If I have to bring all the files to the staging area, मुझे सारी मैंने एक फाइल में चेंज किया है, लेकिन मुझे सारी की सारी फाइल्स को अपने गिटहब पे डालना है, और चेंजेस जितने भी हैं उनमें पुराने चेंजेस होंगे, उन सबको एक साथ मुझे गिटहब पे कमिट करने हैं. I have to send it to GitHub. I will add all those files. This is the syntax for adding all the files which are there in your repository. So it has added Git. Now, how will you check that whether your files are added in the staging area or not? For that, you have a command named as git status. Git status tells you that which all files are there in your staging area. Now, since new file is there in my staging area, I can remove it with this command, which says git rm cached and then the file name. So let's just once remove this file, and I'll show you how it would have looked अगर मैंने बिना staging area के इसको कर दिया होता तो. So see, it is now showing me there is one untracked or unstaged file. If I would have not done this previous command, मैंने git add नहीं किया होता और बिना git add के now I am doing git status, तो वो मुझे दिखा रहा है कि एक फाइल तो है आपके रिपोजिटरी में, लेकिन आपने उसे staging area में add नहीं किया है, तो you cannot do anything with this. I mean, आप कुछ कर नहीं सकते हो. You cannot run any git command. Even if you run it, तो वो किसी फाइल पे रन नहीं होगा because कोई अभी staging area में फाइल नहीं है. So let's add this file. I'm adding all the files. So if you do git status for now, तो वो न्यू फाइल आपकी स्टेजिंग एरिया में आ गई. अब आप क्या करोगे, अब आपको कमिट करना है, राइट? कमिट करने, लेट्स डू कमिट. कमिट, जैसे मैंने बोला, कमिट और सेव में सिर्फ ये फर्क है. सेव अ फाइल मींस, सेविंग अ फाइल मींस आप सारे चेंजेस अपने एक फाइल में सेव कर रहे हो. कमिट के साथ कुछ इंफॉर्मेशंस आती हैं, दैट इज लाइक आई सेड डेट, उसकी एक आईडी, यूजर का नाम, किसने किया है, एंड सम अदर इंफॉर्मेशन. अदर देन दैट, गिट का एक ये एडवांटेज है कि गिट कैन, जैसे हमने डिफरेंट कमिट का ये एडवांटेज है कि अगर हमने 3 कमिट्स करे हैं तो हम हर कमिट पे जाके, लेट्स से मेरा सबसे लेटेस्ट कमिट था थर्ड कमिट, बट आई वांट टू रोल बैक ऑल द चेंजेस व्हिच वर मेड टू सेकंड कमिट, तो आई कैन डायरेक्टली गो ऑन टू द हिस्ट्री which is here. ये जो क्लॉक का साइन दिखा रहा है, ये हिस्ट्री है बेसिकली. अब जब मैं नेक्स्ट कमिट यहाँ पे करूंगा तो इट विल शो यू ऑल द कमिट्स व्हिच वर डन प्रीवियसली. आप किसी भी कमिट को रोल बैक कर सकते हो और आप ये भी देख सकते हो कि किस कमिट में क्या क्या चेंजेस हुए थे, जस्ट टू कीप अ रेफरेंस और कंट्रोल ओवर इट. सो दैट इज द मेन यूज ऑफ वर्जन कंट्रोल. वर्जन बेसिकली आपने अपने एक प्रोजेक्ट के डिफरेंट वर्जन्स क्रिएट करे, डिफरेंट कोड चेंजेस करे, उसके साथ कमिट किया, कमिट के साथ आप हर कमिट को ट्रैक कर सकते हो, किसने किया, कहाँ किया, एंड अगर आपको वो कमिट नहीं अच्छा लगता है तो आप रोल बैक कर सकते हो दूसरे कमिट पर, जस्ट एक प्रीवियस या जो भी आपको कमिट सबसे स्टेबल लगता है अपनी एप्लीकेशन के लिए. सो अभी हमने जस्ट या हमने गिट कमिट किया. गिट कमिट के अब दो वर्जन्स हैं, मतलब बेसिकली देयर आर टू ways of writing git commit statement. Either we just write git commit and it will open a vi editor. Vi editor is basically nothing, it's like a text editor without any graphical navigation icons like file, और वो ऊपर मेन्यू बार नहीं है. Everything has to be done using shortcuts, which you can see on the lower screen. So it has its own syntax, or it has its own shortcuts. So let's say if I name it as
Aryan, just a second. Like right now, you are not using VI, you are using Nano. So on the top, you can see it's GNU Nano 4.8.
okay, Nano.
Yeah. So sometimes by default, what can happen is that your CLI may open Vim editor as well, or the VI editor as well. So it's almost the kind of the same thing, but a little bit of differences in here and there, and maybe in syntax or maybe in the way they interact with your files, right? So basically both are the text editors and having their own individual set of commands, but they like fulfilling the same purpose. So right now, what has opened right now over in front of us is Nano.
Nano.
It's VI. Yeah, correct. Please go ahead. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. So now it's a Nano editor. I can add, I mean, as much as lines I want to. Let's say I want to add, this is the first file of our project. The changes were done in local, right?
Yeah.
So
Also,
this is
Aryan, just a second. Also, like it is like not advisable to add as many lines as you want. Like the git commit message should be as short as possible and as precise and crisp as possible. It should convey like whatever you want to, but it should not be like a article or a paragraph kind of thing. So it should be easily readable. So that's kind of a good practice. Yeah. Sure. Please continue. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good practice to write like few lines, just to not make it confusing and just be very precise. And I was just telling you that you can write as many lines as you can in the editor. I mean, this is one way of writing a commit. And then like you, just a minute, you can say yes, and So now you see that it shows that one file was changed and a commit was made to it. The other way of writing a commit is like git commit -m and then a single, this is basically a single line commit. So if I like add any text here, I'm just adding a one line. So this is a precise and a short way of writing a git commit command. Now, since I've made one commit into it, I want to see how many commits were there, or I want to see a history of all the commits. So for that, I'll go to git log command, and it now shows me that I have made a commit onto my new file named file. So it shows me who am I mean who was the person who has made this commit. It shows me my name, my email ID, then on what, it shows me at what point of time and at what day it was made, and the text that I added to accompany the commit, that to indicate what changes I've made into my project. So now I have added this into my Git. I mean, in my local repository, and I've committed my changes in my local repository. But the main intent is to add this project onto GitHub now. So how can I do that? I will have to write some commands. So before doing that, I would like to okay. So we have implemented these three. Now I'll start. Okay, we have also implemented git log. So yeah. Before that, I would like to introduce the concept of branches. So what is a branch? A branch. Yeah. So what is a branch? Branch is basically it's you. I'll frame branch as a sequence. Let's say you have a default sorry, okay, so branch in GitHub, by default you get one branch which is known as main. So just for now, just remember that in GitHub you get a default branch which is named as main. So what does branch now means? A branch is basically, let's say this is one branch. So like if I add some text here, I name it as main. A branch is basically a sequence in which you are, it's basically a sequence and a line. I can say it's a production line on which you are actually adding your files. So this is one sequence in one storage point in which in a sequence all your commits will be tracked. So let's say commit number 1, commit number 2, commit number 3, or all the files which you are adding into it. So let's say we made one commit. Let's say we made one commit and it was added to this branch, under this branch. Let's name it as 1. If we create another one, let's name it as 2, and so on. Now you are working on a new feature of your application, let's say Django News. You're adding a new feature to it, sorry, a bits news, and you're adding a feature to it. Now you're not very confident on whether should I add it on my main branch or not. But what I mean by main branch is all your code which is very stable, all the main code which is implementing on your server, and you have added it on the GitHub to as a in a repository to be safe and secure, just as a point to save all your code, and you have added it in your main branch. So you by default, GitHub gives you a branch which is called as main, and you're adding all your stable code into the main branch. Let's say a sequence, like it's one line, and you're adding everything onto it. Now you're working simultaneously on other features of your app. So if I say you're working on some one feature, and you name that source code or feature as 3, you're not very confident about that, and you know it's not ready, but still you're adding it on your GitHub so that a version control version for this versions are also maintained. So now what you will do is you will add, or you will add one more branch which is named as, let's say, any other branch, let's say feature 2 branch. So what is the purpose of branch is you can actually keep different pieces of code in different branches. So what it does is if you have one code that is there in your feature 2 branch, it will not have any effect on your main branch. So all your stable code and all your main code is running behind the main branch, and all your code is running behind the main branch. Every other code which you're adding, or you want to add a new feature and you're working on it simultaneously, and you want to maintain everyday record on GitHub, you will add it into your second branch as soon as you want to. So this is one, just a minute. Sorry. So in this direction, all your commits are going, and this is your main branch. Now, if I want to, if like for example, if I have developed and if I'm able to develop a stable code for my third feature, what I will do is I will try to merge these two together. So what I'll do is I will merge these two. I'll merge this branch into this, and the code will I mean this code will remain here, but I can merge it. So merge, now the concept of merge is once you have the confidence, or one, let's not word it as confidence, once your second other feature is ready, you can simply merge it into your main branch. So now after that, all the commits, so basically the intent of branches, or introducing the concept of branch before bringing you guys to the cloud GitHub, was just to make you very clear about what branches are and why is the concept of branch introduced. It's because you can create two separate branches and keep your code different, and there will be no, you can merge it, but until and unless you merge two branch, there will be no hindrance, or I mean all both the branches will work differently. And you can while you are saving your code, you can specifically specify in which branch you want the code to go. So at that point of time, we will have to be very careful at which branch we are actually we are saving our files. So now when we are coming near to adding our project onto GitHub, there are two terms which are very important. One is push and the other is pull. So what is push? Push is when you are
Hi Aryan.
yeah, hi.
Aryan, can you give me a like real life example कि हम branch को कब actually में use कर सकते हैं?
Okay, I'll give
So you will
that
have
to you.
some better understanding.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'll create one branch. I'm manually doing it on GitHub. I'll also show you how to do it from your terminal. But right now, to demonstrate, I'll create one branch which I was explaining you, feature 2. So now if you see, there are two branches. One is main and the other is feature 2, right? So I have to add some. Just a minute. I have to add a file here, and I name that file as feature 3, and I write this is not a stable code, needs reviewing, and I commit it from here. Now it gives you an option of where you want to commit it. Either you want to commit it in the branch you are in. I'm right now in my feature 3 branch, or you want to create a new branch. So I'll commit it in my feature 2 branch. So now if you see, I have one file which is there in my feature 2 branch, but if I go to my main branch, I don't have that file.
Okay.
Yes. So that's like
All
a good explanation. I'll add more to this. Like what you can do is, Aryan, like can you go to Google and open Flutter GitHub? Just
Okay.
search for Flutter GitHub.
Yeah.
Right. Open the first link. Yeah. So like what Aryan explained right now, that whenever you are developing a feature and you are not confident, or like you don't want to roll that feature out into public, or maybe not merge with the main ongoing software what you have right now. So whatever the reason may be, you can like obviously save that commit into a new branch. अब जैसे यहाँ पे एक बार चलते हैं, थोड़ा सा ऊपर स्क्रॉल करो आर्यन, click on master and scroll to the bottom most part of this list. Extreme bottom, yeah. Correct. So here you can see a branch called stable, right? So stable branch में क्या है अभी कि Flutter का जो stable version है, ठीक है, मतलब which has been tested a lot and it has gone through a rigorous testing, तो वो सारा का सारा इसमें stable में push कर देते हैं, and this is like production ready stage right now, or let's say production ready branch right now. तो यहाँ से जो भी pull कराएगा वो Flutter उसका almost guaranteed है कि वो अच्छे से चलेगा. So like this has gone through a rigorous testing. There can be bugs in this stable branch as well, but like the chances of getting bugs in the stable branch are really less as compared to the other branches. अब जैसे आर्यन थोड़ा सा ऊपर scroll करो, there might be a beta branch as well.
Should I search it?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yes, you can see that there is another branch called beta. So जब भी like Google के developers, they are not confident, or like should they merge, or should they not merge, or they are just testing out a feature and they want some public opinion over it, and they want to test out with public who already know that this is a beta feature and this may not be stable, this may not be stable. तो क्या करते हैं यहाँ पे बीटा में पुश कर देते हैं, या फिर डेवलपर्स बीटा को पुल करा के they try to test it with their own piece of software, जो भी उसमें ऐप बना रहे हैं उसके साथ वो टेस्ट करेंगे, एंड वंस दे फील कि यस लाइक दिस फीचर इज लाइक रनिंग फाइन, तो डेवलपर्स फ्रॉम गूगल और whoever is maintaining Flutter, they will merge that feature from beta to your stable branch. So stable branch will have a piece of software which is like more rigorously tested over time.
By stable, I also, I mean, a very good example came to my mind. If you guys remember, जब हम Flutter install करते थे, तो we used to get a stable, I mean, वहाँ पे लिखा होता था. Just a minute, I'll show you. So when we used to install Flutter, तो यहाँ पे जब हम यहाँ पे ना देखो stable.zip लिखा आ रहा है. So this is the project when you, so let's जब हम यहाँ से GitHub से हम project clone करते हैं ना, तो it is getting cloned from this stable branch यहाँ पे. तो this is the real intent of branching. अब ब्रांचेस बहुत सारी हैं, लेकिन गूगल ने सिर्फ स्टेबल वाली ब्रांच से हमें बोला है कि वी शुड क्लोन इट, और दे हैव गिवन अस एन ऑप्शन ऑफ क्लोनिंग इट डायरेक्टली फ्रॉम द स्टेबल ब्रांच. द इंटेंट इज बिकॉज दे वर वेरी कॉन्फिडेंट उनका जितना भी प्रोडक्शन रेडी कोड है वो सारा स्टेबल ब्रांच में है, और जितनी भी बाकी ब्रांचेस हम देख रहे हैं वो ब्रांचेस किसी और पर्पस से हो सकती हैं, लेकिन जो भी मेन ब्रांच है, जितना भी फ्लटर कोड उसमें है जो वर्क करेगा, मे बी लाइक सर सेड कि शायद वो मतलब 100% बग फ्री कुछ नहीं होता है. सो आई मीन उसमें सबसे लीस्ट नंबर ऑफ बग्स होंगे, वो सबसे ज्यादा टेस्टेड फाइल है. तो दैट्स द इंटेंट ऑफ क्रिएटिंग ब्रांचेस, ताकि हम डिफरेंशिएट कर सके कि हमने जो एक पोर्शन ऑफ कोड था वो रेडी करके छोड़ दिया, अब हम बाकी जितनी भी फंक्शनैलिटीज है उन पे हम बाकी तरीके से वर्क कर सकते हैं, उसको हम नहीं छेड़ेंगे, वो बिल्कुल रेडी एंड डन है. मीनवाइल जब हमारा सेकंड फीचर रेडी हो जाए, तो जब हम सेकंड बीटा अपडेट देंगे, तो उन्होंने जो बीटा मतलब लेट्स आई एम जस्ट टेकिंग एन एग्जांपल, लेट्स से उनका बीटा वर्जन कंप्लीट हो गया है, एंड उसके बाद वो जो स्टेबल है वो बीटा को वहां पे बीटा का वर्जन मतलब लिंक दे देंगे गिट क्लोन के लिए, इफ दे आर वेरी कॉन्फिडेंट कि हमारी बीटा की टेस्टिंग डेवलपमेंट सब रिव्यूइंग सब कुछ हो गया है. तो दिस इज द मेन पर्पस ऑफ ब्रांचिंग you're basically dividing your purpose of code, कि आप किस लिए कोड कर रहे हो, और जो भी आपकी फाइल्स है क्या वो रेडी है या नहीं है. So this gives you the I mean the viability, or like I mean the purpose of creating, ये basically purpose है branches create करने.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Aryan, I also want to emphasize that like we may be running out of time, so
Okay,
let's
okay, sure.
try to
Okay,
quickly
okay.
like
Yeah.
demonstrate this. Yeah, great. Sure.
Okay, yeah. Git pull. So I was discussing about git pull and git push. So push basically means moving your files from local to global, from local to remote, and pull means the opposite of it. I mean, copying the most latest commits which were made onto your local, remote GitHub to your local repository. So once like we have done the commit on our local. So now what we'll do is since I'm doing it for the first time. I mean, if I'm doing it for the very first time, अगर मैं अपने लोकल और ग्लोबल को रिमोट को लिंक कर रहा हूं तो मुझे कुछ कमांड्स लिखनी पड़ेंगी उन दोनों को लिंक कराने के लिए. So that is let's say yeah, just so basically what this command is git, which is git remote, is you're specifying that you're adding a local. What is local? Local is any alias for this domain. Just a minute. Demo class. Yeah, this. So this is a domain for my demo class repository. So I'm using local as an alias for it. I don't have to again and again write this entire URL every time. So I'll just add it into remote. I mean, this is a linkage. I'm adding an alias for it. After that, I can check what all this command gives you what all aliases have you created for your current version. So it is now showing me that fetch will also fetch. That is, I'm pulling all the code, all the codes or all commits onto my local, तो वो इस domain से होगा, and I'm pushing it. I mean, both the domains are same. So now I will do git push. I'm pushing it. Git push origin main. So basically this is git pushes, you're adding, you push, git push means you're trying to push your local code to your remote, or sorry, it's not origin, it's local, the alias and the name of the branch in which you have to switch. So it will throw me an error. The error is there is right now we have to create one main branch on our local repository also. So for that we can use this checkout command p, and so it is now switched to a main branch by default. If you look git log, so by default on our local we have master as our default branch. But if we have to bring it back to our main branch, what we can do is we can use this git checkout dash b main. So it creates a new branch for us, and it now brings the header head. I mean, it's basically a pointer. It brings that pointer to our main branch, and it is indicating that it has copied it from master branch. So now if we try to run that command, so it'll ask me for my username. Okay, so it has now told me that there is this error. So what this error is? So now if you notice, there are two files, git ignore and readme file, which are there on my remote repository. And if I check my local repository, so there are only two files. One is .git and new file. So there is a conflict. So there is ambiguous situation. So since these both files are not in sync right now, so what we will have to do is we will have to first make a pull request to make these two files in sync. How we will do that? We will write git pull rebase. I'll just tell you what rebase is. Look, main. Oh, sorry, just pull Yeah, so it has now if I go to my this, so see, it has now pulled these two files as well. So now both at both the locations, the both in my local repository as well as my global repository, they have same number, and both repositories have same files. Now since they are at both of them are at one point, I can now push my project there. Again, it will ask me for my oh sorry. Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, probably you'll need to change your password after the class now.
Yeah.
No issues, no issues. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is making a push request. So now it shows that it has made a push request from main branch to main branch. And so before going to the remote, I will make a git log request. So now it shows me that I had two commits. One was my initial one, which I showed you. The initial one was the one which was made when we created the repository, and the other is which we made changes to. I mean, this commit is done was done on our local. So now if I refresh my repository, so you see I have all these three files here as well. So the git will not come in this, because that was in .ignore file. So now comes the concept of, we have done this, we have done these. Rebase was I'll just do one thing to make rebase more clear. Okay, so let's create one file here. Let's say file 1 abcd. Fine, and let's commit it. So we've created one file named as file1. I am now making, sorry, I had to make commit at that point of time only. Yeah. So if I like make some more commits to it, so sorry, some more change, I commit it back again. Oh, just a minute, I'm having issue of moving this. Yeah. So now if now we have created one file which is there on our remote repository, but it is not there on our local repository, right? And okay, let's say we create this file, we create this file here as well, file 1. Yeah, so we have created oh. Yeah, so we've created the same file on our remote also, but as you see, I have made some commit on the remote, but they are not there on my local. So if I now make some changes onto the local file, let's open it, file 1. So if I like make some changes, changes to yeah, so if I make these changes here, and now I get status, I have to add this file. If I have to make a commit to it, I will have to add this file to my staging area. I will specifically give this file name this time. I have added it. If I do get status now, it will show me that I've added it to the staging area. I will do a git, I'll do a commit to it. Let's say this is a local commit, and it has created one commit for me, git log. Now I will have 3 commits, and by default it is on my main branch now, because I created, I switched it to my main branch. Now if I do git push local or main, so this is again issue. What issue we are facing now right now is we are at so we made a commit onto our remote repository before making a commit onto our local repository. So now what happens is we have actually, there's a conflict between there's not a conflict, there's actually since these two files are not in sync now, so it is always advisable to since our in real life situations, we will not be only handling, at enterprise level also, we will only not handling our GitHub. The GitHub will be our repository will be shared by multiple people. So maybe it's possible that they made some commits or they added some files which were not there on our local repository. So it is always advisable to first make a pull request onto the local repository, and just to make both of them sync together. So just a minute. Oh, sorry. So now if I will see the file where it is, file one, yeah. Now
So
I
actually, like, Aryan, just a second. I want to clarify that file underscore one, and there are two file underscore ones right now over here. Actually, these two files are not same. Why they are not same?
yeah, I got
Because
it.
the extension of file underscore one is txt, and the other one is simply without an extension. So these two are actually two different files with the same name but different extensions. So that's why they are not exactly like similar. They might have the same name, but their extension makes them unique, right?
Yeah, so it's always advisable to first make a pull request before adding any pushing anything, just to make sure that all the changes that were previously made to the remote repository are also there at your local, just to be in sync, so that there is no changes. So now what I'll do is just one more thing to introduce to discuss with you guys. That is, I'll open my file one. I'll just remove this file for confusion. I will add some changes to this file, and I will also add some changes to this file. I've added some changes to this file on remote, sorry, on my local, and I'll add some changes to the just a minute. Yeah, here as well on the remote. So I'll make a commit here, and I will. I have even made a. I have committed it yet. I'll just commit it. Yeah. Sorry, I've added the wrong. I will have to remove one file, that is it. Yeah, so I have removed this one file because that was deleted. So I have to remove it. Now if I do git status, yeah, so it shows me that I've deleted one file and I have one file in my staging area right now to make changes to it. I'll just quickly add a commit to it. 3. I'll just name it as 3. Git log. So I have the recent one here. Now I will push it.
I think he is experiencing some issue with his connectivity. कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. Like whatever he has done until now is great. So I'll conclude like what he was trying to say. So point was that Git rebase he was trying to explain. So maybe like we can follow this up later with him. But Git rebase is something like it's you have a lot of commits in sequence which are not on your maybe let's say your local system. तो अब क्या है कि हमें वो सारे कमिट्स अपने लोकल पे चाहिए एंड जो करंट कमिट है हमारे लोकल का उसके नीचे चाहिए. ठीक है, तो इसके लिए एक तरीका होता है विच इज कॉल्ड रीबेस. वो क्या करता है, जो नए कमिट्स हमारे पास उसपे हैं, क्या कहते हैं, रिमोट ब्रांच पे हैं या फिर रिमोट सर्वर पे हैं, तो वहां से हम उन सबको पुल जब कराते हैं तो देयर कैन बी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स, और हमें वो सारे के सारे जितने भी मर्जेस हैं या जितने भी सारे कमिट्स हैं जो हमारे पास नहीं और रिमोट पे हैं, उन सबको हमें अपने करंट लोकल कमिट के नीचे डालना है. तो बेसिकली वी वांट टू चेंज द बेस ऑफ आवर कमिट. So that is what that is where your git rebase comes into picture. So if you talk about like rebase, so rebasing it's basically like it's a process कि जिससे आप क्या करते हो, sequence of commits को एक new base commit पे लेके आते हो. Like we can discuss this more about in future, but for now like I think he was experiencing some connectivity issues, so I think he got dropped off. Yeah, but yeah, let's say कि अभी तक जो आर्यन ने किया है, it was quite great, and yeah, it's I think complete until now. Yeah, and anybody wants to add anything, so we can add, or maybe like we can drop off the class. Cool then, sure. तो yeah, तो अगले हफ्ते मिलते हैं. ठीक है, आज की क्लास यहीं एंड करते हैं फिर. एंड इट वाज क्वाइट अ गुड लेक्चर, एक नया एक्सपोजर था लोगों के लिए. एंड नेक्स्ट क्लास वी विल हैव समबडी एल्स. इफ यू वांट to like volunteer yourself, so please let me know, otherwise I'll pick one of you guys. Yep, I think Aryan is back as well. Aryan, like we are concluding the class, and I think we all have got the gist of actually a good understanding of what you were trying to explain. It's quite a good effort. Great.
Thank you, sir. Sorry for the connectivity issue. It
No
just
issues, sir.
happened. Yeah, sorry. Should I
Cool then.
explain it again, like further?
Do you want to?
Yes, I can. I mean,
Sure. Cool.
if it is going a very long class, because I know I've stretched a lot. I mean, it's completely your decision. I mean,
Okay, so like since we are like already running out of time, if you can like present it like really quickly, so please go ahead. Yeah.
okay.
I'll make you presenter again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we were doing was I made one commit onto my local repository and one in the same file in my Git in my remote repository. So what happens if now I try to like, since we are like we have always seen, it's better to always pull our previous files from the remote before making a push request. So just a minute. What?
Yeah, I think like it's better to like follow this up later, and
Yeah.
we can drop off because we are running out of time, right? Cool. Thanks, Aryan. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much. Let's meet in the other class.